Everybody, Jane here, and we are about to start Buzzwordathon for June. For people who don't know what Buzzwordathon is, I will link Books and Lala's announcement video down in the description box. But basically, Books and Lala gives prompts, and we're supposed to read either or and the book with the title that is the prompt she gives or the cover description prompt she gives. And I have been previously, if you want to read, watch the playlist, I've been reading using these prompts to read down my TBR. Some months have been more successful than others. This month, I'll be really honest, I'm very slumpy. I've got a lot of personal stuff going on. So if I read one book that has the title prompt and one book that has the prompt with the cover, I'm going to call it a win. That's just the kind of month we're having. I have already started a book with each prompt. So the two prompts are we have memory words for the title, and that is remember, forget, memories, anything that covers memory words. And for the cover, it is planetary bodies, sun, moon, stars, planets, etc. So for my remember prompt or memories prompt, I've picked the book Always Remember. This is an audiobook I'm consuming, and it is by Mary Balogh. Mary Balogh is an author that at one point I was really into. I still like her work, but this book, I will tell you already, has been a little bit of a slog to get through. I think part of that is because the first chapter is very info dumpy, and there are a lot of characters and a lot of family history that is impacting the story. So our two characters who are the love interests, we have Lady Jennifer, and she is in a wheelchair following a childhood illness. We also have Ben, who is the illegitimate son of an earl, and him and Jennifer are at the same party. And so far, their interactions have been kind of minimal. Ben's daughter, Joy, has been wanting to ride in Jennifer's wheelchair, and Ben is a little embarrassed about it, and he apologizes to her because, he feels like that's so rude of his daughter, but of course his daughter is 3 and doesn't know better, and she's like, it's fine. My nieces and nephews and kids are always getting a ride on my wheelchair. It's fine. In the scene I just finished, he walked out into the gardens because he needed a break from the house party that's going on, and she was there using her crutches and trying to walk around a little bit. And he's like, oh, I didn't know you could walk at all. She's like, yeah, a little bit on my crutches, not a lot. It's something that, my family discourages me from doing, but I try to do to keep up my health, which is incredibly reasonable. And so they sit down. He tells her a little bit about who he is, his departed wife, things like that. So there is just a lot, for me, there's a lot of characters, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it took a little while to get the characters together in an interesting way. I'm only about 10% into the book so far, and the jury's still out of how this is going to go. Like I said, it is an author I generally have loved in the past, but I don't know, I haven't read her for years. I don't know if I'm still a Mary Balogh girly or if my tastes have changed a little. If they have, that's fine. But I definitely am a little sad because I really thought I would love this book and it would be like an instant hit with me. And so far, that has not been the case. The other book that I've started, and this is for the planetary on the cover, is A Rebel Without Claws. This is the first book in a new series, the Southern Charm Book 1. It is a spin-off series from the Stay a Spell series. The Stay a Spell series features the Savoy sisters, who are witches in New Orleans, as they get their different love stories. I want to say I finished that series either the beginning of this year or the end of last year. While I liked it, I didn't love it. I loved the first book, which was Wolf Gone Wild, and then the rest of the books in the series have just been okay for me. So I'm not entirely sure how much I'm going to love this series or whether I'm going to continue beyond the first one. But since I did at least enjoy most of the books in the last series, I wanted to give it a go. Our main character in this is Celine. She is the daughter of the characters from book 1 of the Stay a Spell series, Wolf Gone Wild. One challenge I have is that in so much of Stay a Spell, she is a child and a cute little baby and toddler, and to have her as the love interest when we followed her so much more, or so much in the other books, so far just feels just a tad bit icky to me. I also know this writer tends to be very explicit in her bedroom scenes, and I'm not sure that a child that I read about getting diapers changed and drinking from a bottle and spitting up and doing toddler shenanigans is somebody that I want to follow into the more intimate parts of her adult life. I will say I also was a little disappointed because Celine is one of the least interesting options, I think, for characters that could have been picked to be in this book, but also because we follow the first book's characters' children so closely, it makes sense why they started with one of their children. I still think she's probably the least interesting of the children from the Wolf Gone Wild couple, but hey, we got to start somewhere. So she has shown up, and she is an artist of some kind, and she showed up to her uncles, or they're related. I don't know if, I don't think it's by blood, but to a place that does car detailing. And she meets this guy. His name is Ronan. And Ronan works at this car detailing place. His uncle Shane owns the place, or works there, and has gotten him a job. Ronan has had a rough time. His mom died. He's been kind of passed around from family to family. He is older. He's like in his 20s. I mean, he's not super old, but I mean, I'm making him sound like a child. He's not a child, but I will say, like, both of these characters read a little bit young for me, which had me a little bit like, oh, that's weird. But his age doesn't really match his character, in my opinion. I will say, per the canon, witches and werewolves, Ronan's a werewolf, live a little bit longer than humans, so maybe that is why their actual age is older, but like their maturity feels very young. Anyway, Ronan meets Celine and is all like, oh, I, haven't felt my werewolf for a really long time, ever since my mom died. I certainly haven't shifted. And all of a sudden, my werewolf is like, hey, I like her. And so she's kind of waking up his werewolf, and presumably he's going to like deal with the fact that he hasn't shifted and doesn't have access to his wolf through the rest of the book. I will say that is a fairly similar plot to Wolf Gone Wild, although I don't think I'm going to like it in this context nearly as much as Wolf Gone Wild. So if I recall correctly, the characters in Wolf Gone Wild, the mom and dad, they they're the mom and dad for Celine, but obviously in Wolf Gone Wild, they weren't mom and dad, they were the romantic couple. The guy, I believe his name was Mateo, sought out Evie, I do know her name, to help break a hex. He had been hexed and he couldn't shift into his wolf. And so she was a hex breaker who was trying to help him. And they got together and fell in love. So I wonder if we're having a little bit of parallels to that first book. Not sure how I feel about any of that. So that's where we are. Again, I am slumpy, so my lack of enjoyment for these books could definitely be a me problem more than a book problem. I don't know. We'll just have to see how the month goes and wait and see. But so far, I am mildly interested in both of these books. They're both from authors that I have liked in the past, and I'm hopeful that they can help me get through this awful slump that I seem to be in the middle of. So I will let you know when I read a little more how things are going. Hey everybody, it is check-in time. It is actually really close to the end of June. So I am still trying to get these books read. I don't know that I'll actually get them finished in June. We might be a couple days into July by the time I get them finished, but I'm making good headway in both. The month of June has been a crazy month. My kids just last week actually went to their dad's for summer break. One of them is not returning, so one of them is moving with their dad for the school year, so that's a big adjustment. So we've been packing up and dealing with all that this month. Also, we unexpectedly ended up with kittens. Long story short, we had no intention of getting kittens, but a family member had kittens that had medical needs that they could not meet. And my boyfriend and I talked about it and decided that we would take in these kittens because we did not want them to not survive. So we have been doing, for the one kitten, 4 times a day antibiotics. And then the other kitten is just twice a day. So it has been a little bit crazy in our world. So kittens, kids moving, reading has just not happened, and I've been slumpy. But we're turning that around, and I want to give you some updates. So first we will update you on Rebel Without Claws. I am currently right around 100 pages. Here's where I stand with this. I like it, but I don't love it. I am not really connecting to either Celine or Ronan as characters. And my biggest issue, I think, is they don't feel like the age they're supposed to be. Especially this is true of Celine. On one hand, she has a career. She is probably, I don't remember what the age she's supposed to be, but like they present her life-wise like she's finished with college, she has a career, she's an art therapist. You know, she's an adult living an adult life, but then at the same time you have a lot of like almost YA dynamics, like, or new adult dynamics. You know, she still lives with the parents, and the parents are, you know, oh, there's a boy coming around type thing. And I don't love that. And I'm not entirely sure like how I'm supposed to visualize her and where she's supposed to be actually age-wise. And I think part of that, of course, is in the last series, she was a child and now she's an adult, but maybe this would have made more sense if she was a younger adult, like in college, because she is living like she's in her late 20s, early 30s. But then like at the same time, as far as like a career, and has obviously probably finished college, and, you know, her friend's working on her master's degree, you know, older 20s. And yet, you know, she's acting like she's early 20s. So I'm not loving that. I'm not really connecting with her. I'm not really connecting with Ronan, who I have kind of a similar issue with. He is, I'm not sure the age he's supposed to be, but he has a job. He works at a body shop, but then he's also almost written like he's early 20s, as far as, you know, he's living with his uncle, and just things feel off age-wise. So I'm not loving this book. I definitely don't like it nearly as much as the first series. I don't hate it. It's not awful, but I'm a little disappointed because I loved the first series. At least I loved the first book in the first series. Wolf Gone Wild was a really solid 5 for me. This one is somewhere between a 3 and a 4 so far, and that could turn around, but so far I'm not loving it. Also, the writing style is not working for me, and I consumed some of the other books on audio. I don't know if that would have made a difference for me on this one or not. And I do remember when I read Wolf Gone Wild, it took a little while to get with the tone of writing, but I didn't have that problem as I continued the Stay a Spell series, I don't think, as much. And this one, I'm having that issue again of the writing is interfering a little bit with my enjoyment. So I'm kind of middle of the road about this book so far. It could get better. It could get worse. It could stay kind of mid. And right now we're kind of mid, like I said, somewhere between a 3 and a 4. Not connecting with the characters. The plot has so far been, he likes her. He wants to be a fighter. He also has issues with his wolf doesn't come out because of trauma in his life, and he's seeing a therapist who happens to be a therapist that Celine shares an office with, and that is her mentor. And Celine's big thing is, I like him, but I previously had a stalker, and I want to say that was in high school, and so she hasn't really dated a lot since high school. And so this stalker situation really made her feel unsafe and uncomfortable. And she likes Ronan, but is a little bit nervous about trusting him because of this stalker situation. And like I said, this is just kind of, it's not bad, but it's not quite vibing with me. And the plot isn't doing anything to really grab me. And pull me forward. So kind of meh. The other book we're working on, and I'm a little more than halfway through, is Always Remember. I am consuming that as an audiobook. The first couple chapters I really struggled with because there was very tell not show, but it's gotten a lot better. One complaint I do have is we're kind of popping in and out of POVs that are not the main couples, which I don't enjoy very much when we're in a romance. If we are in a romance, I want his perspective and her perspective. And in this one, we're having asides that are like his daughter's perspective and these cousins' perspectives. And it's okay. I am enjoying it right now. It's a solid 4. I like the story that we have. So we have Ben, who is illegitimate and is kind of trying to figure out who he is. He received a letter that is supposedly from his long lost brother on his mother's side. And so he's trying to explore who he is, while he's also trying to find a wife because he is a widower and he wants a mother for his daughter, Joy. Then we have Jennifer, who is wheelchair bound, and Ben has been helping her make things to make her life more accessible. So for instance, he has rigged up the horse carriage so she can drive it. I don't know much about driving carriages, but I guess you have to use your legs to balance. And because of her leg issues that she has from an illness when she was a child, her one leg is shorter and bent and doesn't work well. And so he was able to like modify a rig so that she could drive it, and that was a big deal to her. Also, he suggested that maybe there was a boot that could be made by the cobbler to help her ambulate better. And this is kind of one of those tricky things. I think of it could be too much into ableism. I don't think it is, because it's very much he recognizes her desire to be independent, whereas everybody else coddles her, and he's not trying to fix her. He doesn't think there's anything wrong with her. He just is trying to make sure she has the tools to be as independent as she can be. And, I think that is great. I think anybody who is struggling with a disability, they should have all the tools that they can be given to make their life as easy as possible to be what they want it to be. And so I think we're handling that line really well with Jennifer. You have a lot of questions about him and his past, particularly like things he doesn't know, like who is his mother and what was she like and what was her relationship like with his father. Because Ben was about 3 years old when his mother died, and he was brought to live in his father's family. And his father's family is really good to him. They're great people, but it also makes it so like he is aware that he's illegitimate, and he's aware he's not a good catch. And so he's not really into Jennifer, but he is like, he likes her, but he's all like, oh, she's way out of my league. And then Jennifer is really into him, but oh, he's out of her, or he's, beneath her. But also she hasn't had a lot of marriage prospects that she's liked. So she's had a couple men who've wanted her for her fortune, but nobody who really likes her for her. And so finally she meets Ben. Ben is great. He understands her. They're having a lot of really great discussions about things they don't normally talk about with other people. They're really connecting, but he's illegitimate. So, her family's not thrilled. And also her family's not thrilled with his desire to fix her, is what they're seeing it as of, no, Jennifer's fine. We don't want her to, push herself and cause further injury, and we will take care of her. She doesn't need to be independent. We will take care of her. Anytime she needs something, she needs to go up some stairs, anything. She just has to ring a bell and the servants will come running. And so it's an interesting dynamic. I am enjoying it. It is not my favorite Balogh, and I will say, after reading this again, it makes me question if I am still as into Mary Balogh as I used to be. Mary Balogh is somebody who I would have told you was one of my top favorite romance writers if you'd have asked me 10 years ago, because I was really binging her Regency romances. I tried an American one and didn't like it very much, but her Regency romances were really hitting for me for a while, and I was binging them. And I don't know if my tastes have changed in the past 10 years. but this isn't hitting quite as well for me. And I really, so far, like almost, I would say I prefer Tessa Dare now to Mary Balogh. It's very stylistically different. But I'm enjoying it. I don't know that I would rush. I wouldn't necessarily rush to read more. I'm not going to go and be like, oh, I've got to read all about this family in the series. But I'm having a fine time. And of course, if a Mary Balogh in the future looks good, I'll pick it up. But it's not something that like I want to read her to zero. Whereas I kind of still have a desire to do that with Tessa Dare. I just haven't been trying very hard to do that because life is crazy. But yeah, so that's where the reading is. That's where the life is. I don't know that I'm going to finish these before the actual end of June. This blog might have to go a couple days into July, but that's what we're going to do if we need to do it. It's still books that are getting read, and considering how hectic June has been, I'm just glad to be reading. So I will come to you when I have another update. All right, guys, let me give you the final update for this vlog. I ended up finishing Always Remember, and I am going to give it a 4-star. Now, this one really could have been a 3 or a 4, but I decided since it could be a 4, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4. So, things that I liked about it. When it was good, it was really good. There were times I cried. There were times it really hit. I liked our characters. I liked Jennifer's difficulty trying to figure out how to navigate her world, her struggle for independence. I liked her mothering Joy. Ben, I liked him trying to figure out who he was and his family, and just the characters were fun together as well. When the book was good, it was really good and was really hitting. Things that I didn't love. These characters were great, but the book didn't focus on them nearly enough. There was a lot of tangents that involved a lot of side characters and their stories and their romances. And I get that this is a book in a series, and I'm assuming if I read all the books in the series, I would probably care a lot more. But reading this as a standalone, it just felt sometimes like they were off talking about this character or off talking about that character. And, you know, I didn't care necessarily about those characters the way I cared about the main couple. As I mentioned before, there was also like times that we'd do a POV of somebody else that I didn't really care about. There were also times that there was a lot of telling instead of showing, and I don't find those kinds of scenes immersive. So while I overall had a good time, enough that I feel like I can give it a 4, it is a fairly low 4 because there was probably about even things that I liked and even things I didn't like. But overall, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. And I feel like if this is a book that you want to read and you like Mary Balogh, I would never steer somebody away from it. It was fine. The other book for this vlog, and this will actually be the first since I've been doing it this year, is a DNF. Now, it's not the first DNF. If you go back, you will see that I have had lots of DNFs on these videos. This is the first time I have only completed one of the prompts and not both of them. And I'm really bummed about that, but I just couldn't with this book. I will tell you we are in July, but that is not why I DNF'd it. I was ready to follow through. I was reading it and reading it and reading it. And then I got so mad at the book that I was like, you know what? I don't want to read this anymore. I'm done. So I did like go a day into July, but I know in past vlogs, I've been like, oh, we're in the next month. I'm going to DNF things because, you know, I didn't get it done in the time frame. This is not that situation. This book I am mad at, and it is going to a new home, which sucks because I bought it like brand new, Barnes & Noble, excited to read it, an author I love, and I spent like the full cover price on it. So I am actually kind of put out and upset about it. And that was Rebel Without Claws. It was my DNF. You guys, there's all the issues I said before of these characters are not acting their age. And that was a huge part of my problem. Additionally, though, I just felt that there was logic issues and the characters kept acting in ways that were really frustrating to me. For instance, Celine, we know she has this whole history of being stalked and being concerned and having like a controlling boyfriend in high school and all this stuff. Ronan literally doesn't call her, but climbs in her bedroom window unannounced, without warning, without any kind of let's talk about it before, just shows up, climbs in her window, and is like, hey. And this is not a red flag. This is not even a discussion she needs to have with herself of, oh, it's okay, Ronan's my mate. This wouldn't be acceptable. It's, a little bit triggering. Maybe even have a discussion with him about, hey, it's a little bit triggering. Maybe that does happen later in the book, because I stopped right around here. So I'll just tell you where I stopped. This is minor spoilers, but yeah. So Ronan has crawled in her room and they start messing around. And again, she has this traumatic past with a stalker. Apparently nobody cares. Then her dad comes home. Now again, this is a grown-ass woman, okay? A grown-ass woman who has dated other guys since high school. But her dad is like, whoa, there's another werewolf in the house. Roar! And he shifts. And it's like, okay, listen, I get it. He's supposed to be possessive. He's supposed to be, caring and concerned and a little overbearing. You didn't ask your daughter if she's okay. You didn't call through the window, hey, baby, are you okay? You are a grown-ass 20-some-year-old woman with a man in your room. And supposedly his issue is she had a stalker who hurt her, who was dangerous, and that is why he's overprotective. He doesn't ask, hey, babe, are you okay? He just goes, oh, there's a werewolf in the house. Bah! It is such a freaking overreaction to your adult daughter having a relationship with a man. And I'm confused because she's dated men before this. She seems to have had sexual relationships with other men. Like, she didn't have sex with her stalker. She was still a virgin at that point. But, she's dated beta males and, I assume had sex with them. And yet her dad is like, oh, there's a man in her room. Has there never been men in her room before? Is the whole issue is that he's a werewolf, but her stalker wasn't a werewolf, he was a witch. So there's just no logic. And so much of this book had things that just didn't seem logical to me and that were making me feel very frustrated. And yeah, after Mateo did that, I was like, you know what? I'm just done. And the other issue, I'm just going to point this out. There's not much of a plot that I could find to this book. I have no idea what Celine is trying to do. She doesn't seem to have really a goal in the whole book. She's just kind of hanging out and liking Ronan. Ronan does have a goal. He wants to be a cage fighter, werewolf fighter, whatever. So at least he's kind of working towards that goal, and that's cool. I guess Celine's goal is at some point she's got to tell her dad that she's dating a werewolf. But I mean, number one, he can smell it. Number two, everybody knows. Number three, now he knows because he caught her in the room with the werewolf who snuck into his house, which is a whole nother issue. Yeah, this book just made me mad. It just made me mad, guys. It made me mad. I'm done. I hated that I didn't like it, and I hated that I DNF'd it, and I hated that I paid full price for this book, and it ended up the way it did. So yeah, that is my end of my Buzzwordathon for June. Let us hope July is hella better, because this was awful. This was an awful reading month. I only read 2 things. I liked one of them, but didn't love, but that's okay. I don't have to love everything. I liked it adequately. And then this, just a ton of bullshittery. All right, guys, this has been Jane. Like, subscribe. I'll see you next time. Hopefully next month's Buzzwordathon is way better. Bye. Pictures and patterns put into words that stream across the page.